Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Till Carlos, and we're going to learn how Till took a product from zero to $130,000 run rate within just a couple of months. And it was a lifetime, or not a lifetime, a decade of experience that got him there. Let's get started. Till, it's so good to see you again, man. How you doing?
Likewise, has been some time, some months now.
It has been a while. It's been over a year, I think.
Yeah, right. Because we usually meet in Bangkok, but I sometimes blank on what year exactly, and there's so many people to meet. So we didn't meet last year, we met the year before, 2023.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're back in Saigon, I think.
Yep. That's where I'm now.
Excellent. So thank you so much for talking to everybody on the show today. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so excited to talk to you about all the things that you've been through and all the lessons you have for people and all the things we can learn from you. So let's start off by talking about your story, your history, like where you're from, what you do, how you do it. Tell me about where you're from and how you got from where you started to where you are today.
I'm from Germany, in a small town between Hamburg and Denmark, the country. And I was interested in computer science, which I didn't know the word back then. I wanted to write code for computers. When I was 15, I think I wrote my first Turbo Pascal program. Then I went into school, into university, and started and I coded. I think back then it was a lot of PHP, and then Java, and I started with Ruby, and then I founded a company right when I started studying because I thought it's studying is not a full-time job, and I kind of winged both parts, and I think we get to the focus part later. But the studies were a success. I graduated after 5.5 years. My company was doing okay. It was just like a couple of people doing software development work. But then I decided to exit that company to basically leave it or close it because I had one partner and he later on closed it. It was a service company. It was not worth anything because I noticed I wanted to actually travel and see the world. I became, I don't like the word, but basically a digital nomad, you can call that. And then some newspaper even made an article about me, the first digital nomad in Germany, which wasn't true. But yeah, then I went traveling and I met you in Bangkok, and that's when the whole thing started to actually me thinking about life and what I wanted to do and how to figure this whole thing out. And back then I was 30 and now I'm 40. So the last 10 years were probably the most meaningful in my life because I went from trying different SaaS products to failing all of them, then going back into freelancing, then building a small company that provides developers to companies, and then trying to make it work, but kind of failing along the way because I was not passionate enough about this. And then going back into SaaS, and that's where I'm now. And now this actually, after some time now, this SaaS company we're building now, this works. And I got a couple of things to talk about, but I think you probably want to go deep into some of these topics.
Well, I'm interested in what you want to talk about, but I'm also interested in why the things didn't work. Like, why did the SaaS business not work? Why were you not SaaS businesses not work? And by the way,
Yeah.
don't feel too bad about talking about that. I know you
No,
don't.
it's
I
fine.
also
I don't.
have an entire portfolio of SaaS businesses that didn't work, just like so many other entrepreneurs out there. I always tell people it takes years to become good at doing SaaS because it's its own thing. And there's almost nowhere you can go to learn about that stuff. You have to learn by trying and failing and trying and failing and finally figuring it out. So, you want to talk about the failures first? You want to go into
Sure.
what were the things you want to talk about? I'm kind of
Sure.
curious where you want to go with this.
Well, back when I started, so when I started, there was basically only the foundation. That was a company made by some people in the States. I forgot the names. One of them, or one of the students now built this school.com and consulting.com. Sam Evans or something, this name.
Okay.
So back then, what I had in 2013 was this one interview of Sam Evans where he talked about, oh, Sam Ovens, sorry, Sam Ovens. He talked about how he did customer development and how he was able to produce a software and then kind of pre-sell it and then make it later. And I watched this video over and over again. And then what I did, I picked a niche. So I had a big list of a spreadsheet of niches that I thought I could go into. And I pondered on some of them. And for some reason, I noticed that this one industry is called relocation. It's a niche. It's a couple of billions per year. It's basically global relocation for executives or any kind of staff that people are becoming experts. They're going, let's say, from a country like Sweden to Hong Kong or something. And there's an industry of big corporates that do these contracts, and then small suppliers that actually service these people on the ground, give them flats, help them with visas, help the families and all this stuff. And they only had one software, and I thought I would make a software for them. And my approach back then was I made a list of all the consultants in this industry, and I called them, emailed them, and called them. And what happened was that I found this industry to be somewhat viable because they had these mom and pop shops doing the relocation, and they were using a software already, which was okay, but they were lacking some other innovation. But I did not sell a software to these people right away. I called with consultants. And back then there was one person who wanted to invest right away. And back then I was too scared. So first lesson there is I should have asked her to invest. I should have taken that money and give it all I got for 1 year and built the software. And then I would have a company where I own probably still the majority, and this person would have gotten her investment back or more than that. And I think this would have worked. But back then, so the lessons on that front was I did not take the investment because I thought I could figure it out myself. I wanted to own this thing myself. That was, I think, a mistake because back then I didn't have money, and I needed to fix the money problem first, but I didn't because I thought I would figure it out anyway. But the money problem is actually one of the most difficult problems to figure out, and I underestimated that. So I did not take the investment. I went with another person, and that other person had a strong product idea, but she didn't really have it validated. And so what we did, we built that thing with her, and she was able to generate some 5 figures in sales. It was like 10, 15, 20,000, something like that. But after that, it stalled. We couldn't sell more because the product just didn't have a product market fit. And my lesson there was what we talked about before when I interviewed you previously, how to vet a co-founder who comes from the sales side. They need to know all the things. They need to know how to go to market. They need to know exactly what people need. And she didn't know that, and she didn't put enough resources into that in order to validate it. She had an idea, but it was more like a wishful thinking product. It was not a real product that people needed. And I think to this day it doesn't exist. So that was just a product market fail in that case. Another lesson I have there was that I did not code it myself, and I should have. And I get to this a bit later in my story because the SaaS company I have now, I coded it myself and it works. So back then I just thought I could outsource it. The problem is if you're a technical co-founder, should ideally code yourself because it gives you so much more attachment to what you're doing there, and it's so much cheaper to do so than to hire it out. Yeah, that was the first failure. Shall I go to the next, or do you have a question?
No, that's. I think that's fantastic. That's a great lessons. And yeah, let's keep going. Like you're on a roll with failures. Let's hit the next one up.
So then I had another failure, which was, I think I called it marketingmapper.com. The idea was that let's say for people who are marketing agencies, who run marketing agencies, and there are many out there in the States, and I thought I would focus on people who would need more sales. I started a small YouTube channel just to interview people. So I did my customer development on YouTube, which was in general a good idea because it's very easy to get interviews and very easy to validate based on that. Just to, hey, can I interview you? And then it's basically not an interview. It is like customer development for your product. So it's a good idea. Did around 10 interviews. I think they must be still online. And what I learned is that all marketing agencies have lead generation problems. They usually don't have sales problems. It's all lead generation. So back then there was a company that was called, I think it's still there. It's builtwith.com.
Yep.
You
I
might
know
know
it.
it. Yeah, it's like making 10 millions and 2 employees or something. Back then it was, and I think it still makes money. So I thought, how about I make a build with, but for marketing, for the frequency of blog posts, the quality of blog posts, the social media traction that people get on the blog post. So basically, someone with that system would generate lead lists and could then cold email these leads and say, hey, we noticed that you stopped blogging. Do you need help? Do you need a writer? Or some other things. So we noticed that your SEO is not on spot. We could help you with that. Things like that. And I got not many customers, I think one or two. And but they paid. So we made like $500 per month. It was already a thing that was validated. I think I could have sold it. The problem there was that it was just in a time of my life where I did have other goals than building this thing because I just came through a horrible breakup and I was going back to Asia. I kind of needed to sort out my life and the same mistake I did. So, insanity of the Einstein's definition of sanity. If you try something twice with the same inputs and you're expecting different outputs, you're insane. And by that definition, I was insane because I hired out the development, which was again that mistake, and the product again was not good enough. So I should have built it myself. I do think that I didn't do that back then, from my memory now. I think that was 2016, 15, 16. I didn't build it myself because I did not have the self confidence to code the thing myself. And yeah, cannot blame someone for that. I mean, I was studying computer science, so I knew a lot about algorithms and everything. And I had a company, knew a bit about sales, but I didn't know coding anymore. I kind of lost touch with the coding. And that's when that company, it made some money, but the product never got to a point where I could scale it. It generated some lead lists, and these clients we had, they were still using it months after. So it definitely was something that provided value. It's just not something where I could generate these lead lists reliably. That was the main problem. And now I would know how to build a system like that, but back then I didn't. And I think someone built it, and I think it's still a viable business. And now it's probably changing with AI a lot, but yeah. So this was a failure. I had to stop it after a year, and I lost a couple of thousand on some developers who I hired from back then Russia. And I had to admit that the software was not good enough. So that's when I moved on.
Okay.
Question to that? We can move to the third one.
Well, let's do the third one. We're on a roll here, and yeah, I think
Yeah.
let's look at the three ideas, and then I'm kind of interested in some of the overlap of these ideas, and like
Yeah.
let's keep going on the third thing, and then we'll
Okay.
dig into them.
By the way, I always put part-time into these things, into these businesses, because I needed to make money at the same time, and I was starting to be a digital nomad, so I was distracted by a lot of things you see in Asia. This is, I think, a normal thing that happens to people here. But back then, I also needed to find where I want to stand in life, where I want to be, and meet a lot of people and everything. And so basically, I made money by just providing some consulting services. I had a small team. It made some money. It was basically paying the bills, but not more than that. And at one point, I mean, I get to the money part later, but basically, this small company, this small consulting I had, it went completely out of money in 2018. And that was like my breaking point where I then changed everything in my life. But first, before I ran out of money, a year before, end of 2017, I had the idea of making an English learning chatbot. I cannot tell you anymore why I got to that idea. And I think it's still not a good business idea, especially now as everything is chat based. Now you can just learn any language with ChatGPT. I don't think anyone does that, but it definitely is possible. I don't know why. I just had this idea from somewhere, and I thought this is cool. Let's build it. But now the first thing changed was that I thought I just don't need a developer for this. I would just put it together with ManyChat and some kind of mini website where I host the content and the content gets sent out and everything. And now the first thing changed. By the end of 2017, I was actually in the Philippines, and I saw this thing that I built with ManyChat, with duct tape and some website for the hosting, for the content, and then the ManyChat, and I was getting clicks from Facebook for super cheap. I tested it a bit. I think we paid a tenth of a cent on a new subscriber on Facebook Messenger because they just open up the API and you can get leads so fast and so cheap. And I noticed this. Okay, this is cool. I could probably make money with this. I could probably spend $1,000 and I have like 10,000 leads. Okay, great. Wait, way more than that. I would get 100,000 leads. If for $1,000 you would probably get a million clicks and then whatever converts. Yeah. So this would be possible with that money back then. But of course, it's like fire hose mode. There's no, um, there would be no qualification before on this methods of the ads that I run. But anyway, I ran these ads and then I noticed, okay, this is cool. Let's really build it. But I didn't have a developer and I thought I don't want to work with the developer anymore. How about I just make like a small integration with Ruby on Rails, just like to store the data of the leads into the database, and then I know what lessons they watched and what is the next lesson I'm going to ship to them. It's much better than just a static content website where I send out the content once every day. So I made this small layer with back then Rails 6, I think. And I was sitting in the Philippines working in coffee shops, and my small consultancy still had some clients, so it was making less and less money, but I still had money to pay my living costs there. So I thought, okay, screw it. Let's just build a bit more integration. And then I went from the small layer to like hosting the whole content on Ruby on Rails. And then I built a whole model with anything that you needed in order to make this chatbot working, and eventually also the chatbot itself talking to Facebook. I also coded this in Ruby. Okay, so this is not a story where now I become a millionaire with I mean I'm a millionaire now, but it's not like I became a millionaire with this crappy product because it only made $200. $200 of sales for English learning content. I think some Vietnamese people bought it. But the one thing that came out of it after half a year of coding is I was able to code. I learned Ruby. And then came the moment 2018 where I fully ran out of money. And then I had to do something about it. And back then I was back in Europe. I was just traveling around. And then I talked with some friends. And I think my old co-founder, he told me, hey, Till, I told him my situation. He's like, hey, dude, just take on some consulting gigs. Just code as a freelancer, code for other people. You know how to code, and B, it's good for you. And then I noticed, okay, let's just do that. And I called up a couple of friends, and someone referred me, and I got a job as a freelancer. And then I was working per hour. And that was the moment also where so right before I paid my last salary, there was like the company didn't have any money anymore. So my net worth was like $5,000. So I still had money to like pay for some emergency, but it was really nothing. And I didn't want to ask anyone for help. I never did. I never went into debt. I hate that. I thought I would just figure it out, and I did. So just by coding, I mean, you know how the rates can be in a Western country. You can make with Western language, Western education, you can make more than 10K. I mean, at least back then. I don't know how it is now with AI. You probably face a lot of competition, but back then, easy more to make more than 10K per month. And so I suddenly figured that, oh, wait, I just need to make money. That's the main thing right now, because that was my problem. I was broke and I couldn't pay a developer properly. I was broke and I couldn't focus on the SaaS. So I just noticed that this is a money game. And I did it with 35 or so. And I just worked my ass off since then and founded a small software company, basically out of learning Ruby on Rails from a failed startup. I started hiring more people. I built a small agency, and that's where I am now. Somewhat financially free. Have definitely having not wouldn't say figured out the money problem completely, but at least I found some way for me to figure out to get to self-sustainable level. And this was the main lesson I have here is the self-awareness of security. How much security do I need, and how do I make this happen? What I notice is I need a lot of security. I need money in the bank, otherwise I feel bad. And back then I was just not aware of that. So I did not really treat money well. I wouldn't say there's anything spiritual attached to it, even though I wouldn't neglect someone having that opinion. But for me, it was math. I took a spreadsheet, I wrote down, and I did this since 2018. I said I'd never want to be broke again. And I wrote down every month how much money I had from all the accounts. So whatever checking accounts I had and credit cards, I just write them all down. And I still do this. And I just keep track of them, of that number. And this was the big change, which really enabled me to think in value. And the next thing that happens while working for this client is I noticed that they are actually reselling my services to someone else, which is totally fine. I'm okay with that. It was just I was then kind of socially engineering, not in a bad way. It's just like talk to everybody, talk to the founder, and I figured out their rates. So I noticed, okay, so if I just make them money, then I make a lot of money. So this is the game. I make you money, and I get to participate. Okay, that's cool. So I adjusted my rate to be so low that they took a good chunk of it, and that I had enough to live. Um, More than that, I actually built savings with this, and I kept doing the best job I could, and I still was working on the English learning chatbot because I still had that idea. I still built another iteration of it, but I never had the goal anymore to make money with that thing. I mean, I had the wish, but it was not really a goal. But I used the chatbot to get better at what I was doing, to get better at my craft. And from there, then I understood, okay, so I just need to become really good at what they need, and then I give them what they need, and then I participate in the success. And that was basically how I restored my position in my life, how I got to some money, how I then I still operate on these principles. It is I want to build good stuff. And I did this back then for the client, and now I build it for our SaaS clients. It's the same thing. Just focus on something and build good things that makes money for other people. So this is my operation principle now. So our my slogan right now for my company that I have run now is we are generating profitable businesses for our partners in sales.
So I
And
think it's this
please,
whole thing is really, really fascinating because it seems to me like you went the full circle. You started off with a small service agency. You went down the SaaS route.
yeah,
You traveled around the world. You grew as a person. You learned all of these lessons. And in some ways, you ended up right where you started,
yes,
but as a completely different person, as a completely
yes,
different outlook, with a completely different mindset, and with a business that actually makes you a lot of money or a very reasonable amount of money. Like I think that it's really fascinating because you probably left that initial service business because it wasn't working, it wasn't making money. You went through all of these trials, all these tribulations, you faced all of these challenges, you almost went broke to end up running a very similar kind of business, but one that actually makes money this time.
pretty much. And now that's when so the agency model, I would say I ditched the agency and we're now doing product, but in reality it's the same thing. So what we started doing after a couple of years of freelancing and hiring some other freelancers to work with me together, we started to build products or projects for companies. And I noticed there that we are good at doing that if I'm involved.
Yep.
If I'm not involved, things come crashing down. And this was a very painful realization. And my old clients, because they're as every software product, so usually software products have a rate of 30%, 33%. There are some studies about this. That means if you're a software entrepreneur, you got to live with these two-thirds of failure. And I have those, and I'm not proud of them. And I made a lot of money for my clients, but I also had them lose some money sometimes. So I would say most of the time where it was not a success was in my agency time when I was not involved. So I always wanted to scan, and I get all the group we are in, everybody's an entrepreneur and you have to hire it out and build the teams. And I get that. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to build multiple teams and scale, but I never got to the point because once I tried to get out of a team, the software did not work anymore. And yes, I blame myself. It's not, I'm just not a good HR person. I'm not a good person growing an agency. This is just not me. I made enough money kind of winging it, but I had to admit to myself that I was not passionate about scaling an agency because it's just a different skill set. You're not dealing with tech anymore. You're dealing more with people. And I noticed I wanted to build products. And so I decided to change that model and say we don't do agency work anymore. If someone now asks us, hey, can you build this for us or X and we pay you per hour, I would do some coaching per hour for fun, but I would not build software for people for fun because A, I don't need the money, and B, I know if I build products for people, I would then think about scaling and then I would think about how to get out of it. And once I get out of it, then I have all these problems of how do you hire super cheap people to still do an okay job? And I feel like the incentives for an agency are not aligned really well. As an agency, you need to push the manpower cost down. The staffing cost needs to be as low as possible so you can make a margin. But when you do that, the quality takes usually goes down as well. If you hire better people, then suddenly you have a lot of pressure on the margin and you maybe not have a safety net. So it's just the incentivization is just, I think, just off for the agency model. And it might work for other people, but I've seen now enough cases where the agency model has incentivization that is not aligned with what the client actually wants. So then I said, okay, this was last year. I said, I want to change this around. Still want to build products, but now here I am. I can develop. I still have a small team of very capable people. I just don't know what product to go into. And then I kind of put this in my head. And then, reticular activation, that's the stuff that Tim Ferriss is talking about. When you want to see a red car, you see red cars everywhere. So what then happened was I found partners and I found two partners. So basically, we're doing two products now, still with my development company, but now we're holding shares in those businesses. And now this seems to be the hack that works because it solves two problems. One problem is I don't have product market access right now. So what do you call it? I don't have market access for any kind of product right now because I'm a technical person living in Vietnam. I have a network of other technical people. So the only market I could access was something on the
Technical
development
market.
side, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but nothing for like real products. So I would need to learn all the marketing side, and I don't have time for that, and I might not even be good at that. So I fixed that one problem by working with partners who already have market access. That's the big thing for me. The second big thing was to say, I'm going to code this thing myself. And I'm going to leverage people to help me with the coding, but I'm going to be the person who, I mean, it's a bit of an analogy that sometimes I have in my head. When I see something that can work, like pile of money or like something that some success that you grab, right? You grab that and you hold on to it. I don't let go. I know the code. I know the DevOps, and yeah, my team also knows, and they're good.
So I
But
have a
I'm not
question
gonna
about that.
outsource everything.
I have a
Please,
question about that. So,
please.
I come from working at the private equity level where we're running teams of minimum size 30-man development teams.
Yeah,
There's no way for one guy to code the system. The system has grown
sure.
so large. We have teams of product owners. We have product owner management,
Yeah,
just to, and then each product owner is overseeing a team of multiple devs, multiple QAs, multiple other product owners, sometimes technical writers, designers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious, what happens if one of these products you have begins to scale to the point where you can't code it anymore? What's the backup plan there?
yeah. I have a plan for that. The answer is founder mode. There was an article last year written by Paul Graham. I don't know if you read it. It's going to be founder mode. It's going to be so I have partners, so I have support. If this thing grows, I mostly need to take care of the tech and maybe a bit of product, but mostly the tech.
Okay.
So I'm going to do founder mode for the tech. I'm going to be there to support the team. And I'm not going to code anymore. And so for one product, I'm not coding anymore. I have a developer in place, and it's okay. It's fine. I do the merge request. I do merge request review. I do deployments and I do architecture. But this person is taking charge of that now. For the other product, I code important parts and then I get out. I have on the on the second product, we have a staff of 4 now,
Okay.
and I basically take the profits of the first product and invest in the second. So
Are,
this
are
is roughly
you
how we're doing it now.
are you at liberty to talk about or to tell everybody what those products are that you're working on?
I can give a good direction. So the first is a purchasing bot. Like it's a thing that logs into APIs and purchases stuff for small businesses. Let's say you're a
Okay.
tire shop and you wanna order certain tires that you usually cannot get because they're, I don't know, some alloy rims that are hard to get. That it will just automatically purchase in the night for you.
Okay.
That's the thing that makes money. It was a 6-figure business basically right out of the bat. Like we launched and like 3 months later we are at a 6-figure run rate.
Excellent. Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
fantastic. A
yeah.
couple
That
months
was
in. That's amazing.
really really fast, really good. Yeah. And this really showed me okay. And this I coded this whole thing myself. And it's again Ruby on Rails. Rails 8 is fantastic. I love this framework. It's you can get done so fast
And
with
what
so many
percentage
things out of
ownership
the
do you
box.
have in that?
33%.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And so
Congratulations.
the deal, yeah,
That's
thanks.
great.
the,
That's
the
fantastic.
deal, it is really fantastic. And this one restored my confidence that we can actually do something that provides a lot of value and customers are happy, everybody's happy. And the deal is also structured in a way that it's all revenue share. So
Gotcha.
everybody gets their revenue share and takes care of their own costs. So that means I hiring a developer takes away from the 30-50% I need to pay them. So I have incentive to keep the cost low and make more money for my partners and for me, right? But of course, at one point, need to hire more people, and this is just the way the deal is structured, and it works really well for us right now.
So what do you have planned for that? Like that going deeper into that piece, what happens when that scales? What happens when you're at a run rate of $5 million?
Yeah,
Well,
sure. So
it,
if now we all agree that we need a desktop app, for example, or we need to go into a new field, then I would, so that's inside the deal. That's like, okay, so now we want to invest, we need that much money. And now we need to see where we get the funds from. So then we could, for example, say, we're just taking a couple of months and putting into the bank, or we all put more money into it. So it's a question how we want to run this business, right? Right now, we all have a consensus that this is going to be a lifestyle business. We can probably bring to 1 million in a couple of years. It's just not something where we want to uh, pick a fight with a huge software company that already
okay.
does this thing.
Gotcha.
It's so,
Okay.
and this is alignment of the founders. Sure, if the alignment was not there anymore, if let's say, I mean, I could be in a different position. I could have like I don't know, 10 million in the bank and say, well, this is small boy stuff. I want to go big. I would just want to grow this thing as much as I can. Then this would not align. But right now, this aligns. I mean, there's a whole topic about partner alignment, but I think this is probably takes another podcast for this. So this works really well, and we're constantly improving the product, and it's churning away. Um, the second product is it's like a funnel builder. It's a bit like ClickFunnels, but what you put on top of it, so there's no design system inside the funnel builder. So basically, we are doing the design for you. So it's going to be partly a productized service where we build the websites for you. You can pick a template, or we can modify it for you, and so we can make sure that the design is really well done. And then the funnel builder below it contains a CRM and a booking module. And yeah, this is pre-revenue, I have to say. So we are still working on that.
Okay. Excellent. Cool. That I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of curious, like why not just go hard on the one that's making money? You know, if you've got one that within a
Yes.
couple months is doing that,
Yeah.
like why not just go all out on that? Like why? I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
it seems to me like if I had a business that jumped to a couple $100,000, when you talk, you said a
Per
couple hundred
year,
thousand
right?
or
Not per month. Not per month. Per year.
per year. All right, so even still, like
Yeah.
if you're
So we
doing
have
over a
five
hundred.
figures per month now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 figures per month. And within a couple of months, most SaaS businesses that I've seen, it takes them a while to get up to 5 figures. That's
Yeah.
not a funded business or not like a well-funded business. It takes them a while to get up to that. And so
Yes.
if you've got something that's jumped up to 5 figures within a few months, why not just why hold it as a lifestyle business? Why don't you just go and say, look, we want to make this a high impact business. We
Yeah.
want to take this up to $10 million per year business and sell this thing for 40, $50 million, and we all go home feeling fantastic.
Yes. This is exactly the thing that everybody tells me when I talk with them. I say the people who run software businesses who understand who understand this game, they tell me exactly what you just told me. So kudos to you. It has a
Thank
couple
you.
of reasons that are partly personal, partly uh, financial product. So first reason is I already had my team and I needed something for them to do. I could fire them, but I basically had free manpower. That's one thing. That includes myself though, as well. So I myself had time to spend because the product is done and now we are. So there's not so much I can improve on the product right now, short of completely building another block to get more features or more market share. So the product itself is kind of done. And the things we're doing now, the things we want to innovate in, I can do with a small team and me leading that team. So that does work. So this is a decision of where do I place the energy and how much opportunity do I want to capture. The second thing is I did not know it would take off. If it would have, I would have maybe even invested more into this and got more shares or did something totally different or just say I'm just not going to do anything else, just like do this and have more time with my family or something. But this is just historically from last year where I got approached by or I met these two different partners, and then it's just a gut feeling, but this marketing automation software, I have a gut feeling that this will be a huge success just because I talk to customers myself now and it's something that they really need. And I believe this would be even bigger than the first one.
Okay.
But of course, this is a risk estimation. This is something where it's really hard to predict. Um, so that's these are the reasons, yeah. And also in the second one, the deal's different. In the second one, it's a revenue share deal, but I still own the product, so I have more directive of the product itself, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it needs to fulfill what they do, but technically, if that sales partner doesn't want to do it anymore, I could then fully run the thing myself, which I couldn't do with a first partnership.
Gotcha. Yeah, it just feels to me like it's really interesting what you said about not knowing whether it's going to work. Pretty much every time I've launched any new business, like I had a good feeling it was going to work, but I'm an optimist. And
Mm,
most of the time it doesn't work, or it doesn't work because of a lot of the reasons that you pointed out. Like I wasn't all the way in, I wasn't fully focused on it, I wasn't actually that passionate about it, I didn't have enough money, I was
mm,
undercapitalized on it. All of those different reasons are the reasons that my different things have failed. But when I've had things that have worked, very often they work because I am fully focused on it. I am
mm.
100% in on it because when I'm 100% in on it, if it's not working, I figure it out. I
Yeah.
figure out how to make it work. I twist it, I change it, I tweak with it, I figure out, I change the market, I pivot the business, I do whatever I have to do to make the thing work. If I've got
Hmm.
something that's working, I mean, like you said, 2/3 don't work in software and software product businesses. I disagree with that. I actually think that 0.5% of software products actually work. 0.5. And I'll tell you why. Having run a
So
consultancy building these companies for so many years, there are so many that get money put into them early on that never go anywhere. Maybe
okay, so
after
but even if
yeah,
you double that, that means 99 products out of 100 would fail and only one
exactly.
succeeds and
Yep,
even less than that.
exactly.
Okay, that's
That is
interesting.
exactly right. That is what I'm what I'm keep in mind, you have to think about where in that model, like where in the process that is. Because I'm talking about people, sometimes people put a lot of money, but a lot of times they just put a little bit of money to have an idea, but they
Okay.
realize they're not the right person to do it. They start it, but then it falls off before it ever gets anywhere. Sometimes
Ah,
they
okay.
start to
So,
get
okay. Sure.
like 2 years in and then it still fails. Having doing what I do, a lot of people come to me to talk about how to fix problems they have.
Hmm.
And so often there's no fixing it because they built something
Mm.
nobody's ever going to use. And so
Yeah,
whenever I see a
that's generally the case.
product that is actually going, that it actually has traction, that's actually making it, I'm like, go jump on that. Like turn that into real money. If you can turn something into a couple $100,000 within a few months, you can probably turn it into a couple $1 million within a couple years. Probably faster than that.
We should
So
have a follow-up talk in like a year from now and see how things went.
I would love to do
Yeah,
that.
it'll be cool.
I'd love to do that. Okay, so
I want to talk one thing is which you just touched on somewhere. It's this thing that I just recently discovered is expecting a positive outcome. And I think it's from a book I read, How to Make a Couple of $1 billion by Brad Jacobs. And I didn't have that, and I just got that. It's this conviction of that what you're doing will work. And conviction has multiple different areas where you can have it. I figured that I now have conviction for the software side. So if I'm staying inside it, I'm able to make a software work. So if I find a sales partner who has conviction that this is going to work, then we're good. Then we're golden. But this expecting the positive outcome, and I tell this to my team, when we're building this thing, you need to expect this, that this feature is going to be used. It's not something where maybe MVP that we're going to throw away. No, this is the thing we're going to use. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to review your merge request. And if you're building something that compromises the longevity of the whole system by just taking some shortcut, we're not going to do that. We make sure that we are going to build something that can work in a year from now still, at least.
cool. So I had one other thing that didn't make sense to me. So
Sure.
something you said that like caught, like there was a hook
Yeah.
in there. You talked about the second product, this
Yeah.
ClickFunnels kind of product you're building, and how
Yeah. Yeah.
you have control of it, and so like if you want to do it, you can go do it. But you just got done telling me that you're on the dev side, that you don't want to go do that.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'm aware of that. If
Okay,
for some reason the partnership would have a disagreement now, I think I would be screwed.
okay,
I'm aware of that. I couldn't do it without my partner.
okay.
However, in 1 or 2 years from now, when this thing, so I think I need to get to some substantial MRR with that before I can say, okay, it's validated, and now I can now do SEO or some kind of sales activity, or I hire out the sales function.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I was just kind of curious about it because I was thinking
Mm.
like, is that really what you want to do? And it seemed like it
Yeah.
was a little contradictory to where you're going with everything else. All right, so
No,
so
I,
if
I
you were
love that product. It is so interesting. It's technically so interesting. I've met the customers who really need this, who are lost with Go High Level and with ClickFunnels, who just want someone who takes care of it for them. And we are building this thing in a way where the customers have much less to worry about while still keeping the flexibility and a good design. So I have conviction that this is gonna sell. And I also really like to. It's like a very interesting challenge.
excellent. So it sounds more like a tech-enabled service than a product.
It was we just recently. I mean, the thing is also new, right? And it's not exactly launched yet. So, but I took the decision to move more stuff into the scaling side, into the core, so that we can scale easier. Because if you're building funnels with a team all the time, you at one point have the problem that you're diverging the code bases, and every decision you take now you need to make for all of them. No, sorry, once you branch off, then you have many small decisions and need to support them. If you keep a bigger core, then you make a decision that's then circling to all of them, all of your tenants. And so I said I want to go more into the SaaS model. So we're still gonna make websites, but they're gonna be templated. We're gonna make them for the people signing up. They get a templated website, and if they want to then make more and have the really stunning personal branding website with their own fully custom design, we can do that, but it's still going to operate on the same core.
Got it.
So it's like an white glove service, but the core is still a SaaS and it's going to scale like a SaaS.
I understand. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
But I mean, at the end of the day, like you're still doing the design work for them, right? It's
Yeah,
templated, but you're still
it's
coming in
templated.
to do the setup.
Yeah. Yes, and I think we will probably need to tweak a couple of them. If they say, yeah, this is nice, and then we probably need to switch the template or change it and make it better. I think there's so many things I don't know exactly yet. And we will figure them out slowly as we go and as we onboard clients.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, so I took some notes as we talked. We
Cool.
talked about money, that it's a money game. That you got to focus on money and sales. You got to make money doing the things you're doing. You talked about building it yourself, about being the lead developer on these systems
Yep.
because when you were in it, it bloomed, and when you took your eyes away, it started to fail. Uh,
Yep.
and then I think, oh yeah, this was in line with the other one. I just need to make money, and then you never want to be broke again. So, I think those were that's really can be taken down to money, focus, and building it yourself as the three main lessons. Was there anything else to add to that as your three main lessons that you've had as an entrepreneur through the last 10 years of your career?
This is as generic as I can put it. Um, I
Okay.
think I
So
would condense it down to that. Yeah. Yeah.
if you were going to go back 10 years ago, you're just about to leave the small town in
Yeah.
somewhere between Hamburg and Denmark. You're getting on a flight going somewhere in Asia, probably to meet me around that time, maybe a couple
Yeah.
years later. You're on the flight out, and you run into the Till from today. What would you tell yourself about business? Maybe about life as well. But what would you tell yourself back then if you had a few minutes to slap yourself in the face and teach yourself some lessons?
Okay. And I cannot say buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, you can't say buy Bitcoin. You can't say invest in Nvidia. You can't say buy Bitcoin. Although I mean, you can, but it's everybody would say that.
I would say that one idea that you have there with the relocation, you code and you make this thing work and you
Okay.
don't let go until it works. And make a plan how much money you're going to burn. Like don't because I started going to Asia with like 40,000 or something. And I think I burned it too fast. I could have this could have been a 2 year run rate where I just sit down in some country, is it or Chiang Mai, Thailand. Let's sit down for 2 years and build a product. I think this is probably that, yeah. And just focus on one thing and don't try too many things because usually the success comes after you're proven to be worthy. And that usually comes after a lot of work. So don't try to outsource too fast. Even if everybody tells me that I should do that. A lot of people told me, yeah, you need to hire that out and all this stuff. And it's usually you can do a lot of things yourself before you hire something out. Like if it becomes really repetitive, then you can do that. And especially if you're technical, don't outsource development work because developers are always incentivized. And this is probably a huge part of my book. Then at one point, developers are always incentivized to to code and to do fancy stuff. They're usually not incentivized to make you money.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. That has been my experience as well. And that's why we have a lot of controls on development and why we have senior
Yeah.
developers that understand money helping guide dev teams.
Yep. Yeah, you can incentivize them, right? And I know friends who are doing this, and I'm incentivizing my team myself. But yeah, it needs to be clear and it needs to be repeated, and you need to find the good people. It's much harder to control other people or to incentivize them to lead them than okay, let's put it differently. You need to do it at one point to go to scale. There is no way around it. If you want to
Yep.
scale, you need if you're not a solo dev that makes a lot of money with a software or you're like a highly paid consultant, you need other people. But you can only lead other people if you figure this stuff out yourself. And this
Yep.
is what I had to learn.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. This was fantastic. Thank you so
Yeah, you
much.
liked it?
Really,
Cool.
really, really appreciate that.
Sure.
It really gave me a huge amount of insight into your life, kind of the journey that you've been on, a little bit about where I met you in that journey
Yeah.
and the different time periods because like as you were talking about where you were at these different times, I was thinking, oh yeah, I remember that time. I remember you being down at that time. I remember you being up at that time. I remember how how you were over those times. I remember a time when you kind of disappeared and nobody, I
Yeah.
didn't hear from you for a
Yeah.
long time. And I kind of wondered, like is he doing all right? Is he okay?
Yeah.
Did he disappear to somewhere in Southeast Asia and fall off an island? Like what
Mm.
happened? And it's really good that we can be here now having this
Yeah.
conversation, looking
Likewise.
back on the last 10 years, and we're both in a much more financially
Yeah.
stable situation and in a place where we're supporting ourselves and our families.
Exactly. Do you remember the scene from The Matrix where Prometheus was it Morpheus
Morpheus, yeah.
stands there, Morpheus and stands there. We are still here. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
so
I
many
do.
people starting with us and they didn't go anywhere. They dropped off. They became employed. They did something that was not what they set out to do. And we're still here after 10 years. So this alone gives me a good sign that the next 10 years going to be 10x of that.
Yeah,
If we
absolutely.
just keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, I'm gonna end the meeting before I tell you about this, but I gotta tell you about what I'm working on next because I'm working
Please.
on a pretty big capital raise for a pretty big
Oh.
software product. So
Oh.
I'll tell you about it offline, but
Okay, sure. Exciting.
I'll tell you about that in just a second. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And everyone, Till Carlos, if you need development resources, if you want to build a product,
No, no,
are
no.
you
Don't.
seeking
In
are
a partnership, maybe, but not an
in a
agency.
partnership, in a partnership,
In a
not in an
partnership. In a
agency,
partnership. Yes.
in a partnership,
Come over. Yes.
you can reach out to Till. All right.
And
And so,
you can check out
yeah,
my site on tillcarlos.com. We also have a newsletter and yeah, YouTube channel. So have a look.
perfect. Excellent. All right. So tillcarlos.com, Till Carlos on YouTube. And
Everywhere. Yep.
how do I get access to the newsletter?
Just go to my website and there is a button.
Perfect. All right. Great. Thank you so
Cool. Thanks,
much.
Jason.